At some point in the last month, you looked at someone else's life and felt behind. Maybe it was a coworker pulling into the parking lot in something new. Maybe it was a college friend's Instagram, the vacation, the house, the apparent ease of it all. Maybe it was just a quiet Sunday afternoon thought that arrived uninvited. Everyone seems to be further along than me. Here's what's actually happening. You are not seeing other people's financial lives. You are seeing the parts they chose to show you, or the parts that happen to be visible, and then drawing conclusions about everything underneath. That is not information. That's a projection, and it is quietly doing more damage to your financial decision-making than most actual financial mistakes. Today, we're going through 7 reasons why everyone seems to have more money than you, and why the reality, in almost every case, is considerably more complicated than what you're looking at. My name is William, and I think about the gap between how wealth looks and how wealth works. Not a financial advisor. This isn't financial advice. 1. You're reading the cover, not the book. There's a version of this that plays out in offices everywhere. You're driving a sensible used car, paid a reasonable amount, reasonable monthly payment, plan to own it outright in 5 years. Reasonable. Boring. Correct. Your coworker is driving something new, something that costs significantly more than your car, same salary as you, and somehow his payment is only slightly higher than yours. What he didn't mention, he's leasing. 3 years, then the car goes back. He puts several $1,000s down at signing. His insurance is higher. At the end of the term, he owns nothing. From the parking lot, you look like the person who can't afford as much. From a spreadsheet, you're the one building equity, and he's paying a monthly fee to borrow someone else's depreciating asset. This logic extends well beyond cars. The person renting the luxury apartment in the expensive neighborhood isn't necessarily wealthier than the person who bought a modest place in a cheaper zip code. One has a prestigious address and zero equity. The other has a mortgage, a growing asset, and a monthly payment that ends in 25 years. From the outside, the apartment looks like winning. The numbers behind it tell a different story. The surface of someone's life is not their balance sheet. It's a costume, sometimes a very expensive one. 2. Spending habits are almost entirely invisible. 2 people, same income, completely different financial lives. One spends on experiences, travel, concerts, things that don't leave a physical trace. The other spends on things, clothes, bags, a car, objects that are visible to anyone paying attention. From the outside, one person appears to have more. The other appears to be doing less, going fewer places, owning fewer things. The investment account, the growing net worth, the compounding retirement fund, none of that is visible at a dinner party. The designer bag is, the Rolex is, the lease is. What people perform financially is almost never what they're actually building. The quietest wealth accumulation looks from the outside like not very much at all. Here's the version of this that almost nobody talks about. The person aggressively building wealth is often making choices that read as deprivation to people around them. They're not at the expensive restaurant. They're not doing the group vacation. They drive the older car, live in the smaller place, wear the same jacket they've owned for 6 years. To casual observers, they look like someone who can't afford more. In reality, they're the person redirecting every available dollar into assets that will make every future decision easier. They look behind. They are not behind. They are just playing a different game on a different timeline. 3. The people who actually have money aren't showing you. There's an almost perfect inverse relationship between real wealth and financial display. The genuinely wealthy, not the performing wealthy, not the leveraged wealthy, but the people with actual 9-figure net worths tend to look remarkably ordinary up close. A polo shirt, a sensible car, no announcement. They have no reason to prove anything to anyone because the number in the account already settled that question. Meanwhile, a significant portion of luxury goods in America are purchased on credit cards.
A Bain & Company study found that luxury sales are increasingly driven by younger demographics, Gen Z and millennials, who are financing the appearance of wealth they haven't yet built. The flashiest presence on your social media feed is quite possibly the person under the most financial pressure, and the person you'd never guess is wealthy is the one who paid off the house, maxed the retirement account, and just doesn't feel the need to tell anyone about it. A Ramsey Solutions study of over 10,000 millionaires found that 61% drove Hondas, Toyotas, or Fords. The median amount paid for their most recent vehicle was $31,000, not a statement car, not a lease, a paid-off sedan driven by someone whose net worth would make your jaw drop and whose parking spot would give you absolutely no indication of it. What you're seeing when you scroll is not a documentary, it's a highlight reel with a credit card behind it. 4. You only compare yourself upward, and it's costing you perspective. Nobody wakes up and thinks, let me compare my financial situation to someone worse off than me today. It doesn't feel aspirational, it doesn't motivate you. So instead, you look up at the person with the nicer car, the bigger house, the more impressive title, and you measure yourself against them. The job title comparison is particularly misleading. A VP at one company is a senior manager at another. Director at a startup means you're employee number 12 and someone gave you a title instead of equity. The same skills, the same responsibilities, the same actual market value, completely different labels depending on where you sit. But there's a wider version of the upward comparison problem that's worth naming. The reference group you're comparing yourself to is not random. It's curated by algorithm, by geography, by social circle, and it almost always skews towards people doing better than you on the specific metrics that are most visible. Income, housing, cars, vacations. The algorithm does not show you the person quietly maxing their Roth IRA in a studio apartment. It shows you the person on the boat. The question that actually matters isn't whether someone else's title is more impressive than yours. It's whether you are developing skills, whether you are moving towards something, whether the work you're doing today is making you more capable than you were a year ago. That metric is invisible to everyone else, which is exactly what makes it the right one. 5. You're seeing wins, you're not seeing losses. The internet has a selection problem. Someone turns $80,000 into $1.1 million in a week on options trading and posts the screenshot. It circulates, it gets screenshots of screenshots. You see it on 3 different platforms before lunch. It genuinely happened. It is genuinely extraordinary. What you don't see, the dozens of people who made the same trade and lost everything. The person who posted, quietly, about watching their entire savings disappear in a single session. The accounts that just went silent because there was nothing left to post. The wins are loud, the losses are private. And if you make financial decisions based on the wins you're seeing without accounting for the losses you're not, you are working with a data set that is systematically designed to make you feel behind and make risk look smaller than it is. This same distortion exists outside of trading. The person who started a business and made it look effortless on LinkedIn is not showing you the 18 months before that where they burned through savings, missed payroll once, and genuinely considered quitting. The overnight success story is almost always a 10-year story with the first 9 years edited out. There is no version of wealth building that skips the boring middle part. The people who actually got there, the ones with the paid-off house and the index funds and the brokerage account that would make your eyes water, did it by doing unremarkable things consistently for an unremarkable amount of time. That story never goes viral, but it is the actual story. 6. You don't see what they gave up to get there. The investment banker at 30 with a real salary and a real net worth worked 100 hours a week in their 20s, missed weekends, missed relationships, missed the kind of ordinary living that isn't impressive to anyone but feels irreplaceable when it's gone. The oil worker with significant savings spent stretches away from their family in conditions most people would not accept for any salary. You see the outcome. You don't see the decade that produced it. This is not an argument that success requires suffering. It's an argument that the finished product, the visible version of someone who seems to have more than you, almost always has a cost attached to it that isn't visible from where you're standing. And sometimes that cost compounds in ways that money doesn't fix. The person who spent their 30s optimizing purely for income and arrived at 40 with a strong net worth and a personal life that needed rebuilding from the scratch is not obviously ahead of the person who earned less and protected more of the things money can't replace. You only see the net worth. You don't see everything that got traded for it. And sometimes when you actually inventory what was paid for what was gained, you would not make the same trade. And that is a completely legitimate conclusion.
7. Some people had a head start you didn't see. The friend who affords the apartment that shouldn't be affordable on their salary might have a family transferring money quietly every month. The person who bought property at 24 might have had a down payment gifted. The person whose financial life looks inexplicably comfortable might be sitting on inherited investments that existed before they made a single dollar of their own. This isn't a moral observation. People don't choose their starting position, but it matters enormously for the comparison you're making without realizing it. A Federal Reserve study found that adults who receive an inheritance are significantly more likely to own a home, hold financial assets, and report higher net worth, independent of their own income or education level. The head start is real. The advantage compounds, and from the outside, it is completely invisible. When you hold your financial progress up against someone who began with structural advantages you didn't have, you are not making an apples-to-apples comparison. You are comparing your Chapter 3 to their Chapter 10 and concluding that you're losing a race you were never actually in. Build from where you started, not from where someone else did. The feeling that everyone has more than you is not a financial assessment. It is a perceptual one. It is what happens when you have full access to your own balance sheet, every debt, every anxiety, every month where it was tighter than you'd like, and only partial access to everyone else's front door. The actual numbers, the debts behind the leases, the credit cards behind the luxury goods, the stress behind the titles, the sacrifices behind the outcomes, the family money behind the down payments, those don't make it onto the feed. You are not behind. You are just comparing your complete picture to everyone else's carefully cropped one. The only scoreboard that actually matters is the one nobody else can see. Build your number, ignore the performance, and give yourself the credit of knowing what's actually on your balance sheet, because most of the people you're comparing yourself to are hoping nobody looks too closely at theirs.